Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we cover all the home teams like we always do. We'll talk Saints getting ready to go into training camp. LSU and Tulane no longer playing baseball? Come on, are you kidding me? No longer playing baseball? We'll talk about both those universities, and also we'll get into some Pelicans. Great panel for you tonight. Mike Fazende joins me each and every Friday on Inside New Orleans on Sports 1280. Noon to 1, and he is one of our panelists along with my colleague Corey Johnson of Sports 1280, who is, again, the drive time host 4 to 6 weekdays. Corey will join us in a few minutes. Mike, welcome back to the show. Always
Eric,
good to have you.
Always fun to be here, man.
And you got some things cooking, huh? I mean, outside of joining me every Friday, which I really enjoy, it's an opportunity to talk sports with somebody that I got a lot of respect for, and a guy that is as knowledgeable as they get when it comes to sports, and a guy that we started off in radio way back when with John Fine Sports and then Sports Rap, and then Mike became a physical therapist, and I stayed this course. But
I was in therapy before that.
There you go.
Right.
But anyway, we we digress.
As we do a lot.
We get an opportunity to really kind of go back and forth, and I get such a great compliments from the audience that look forward to you coming on a Friday, and I love to have you on this program as well.
Oh, that's nice.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on with you.
Well, I have the Fazende football blog that's in hiatus right now, just like, it's July doldrums. So the last thing I did was my draft recap, so grades. But training camp's coming up. Yeah. I'm gonna put one out for my expectations of my what I'll be looking for, and also got a podcast in the works.
Right
now, I'm thinking right around. I want to do like a kind of a football a weekend recap, and we can like look forward to. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably put it out on a Wednesday.
Yeah. So
we can talk about what happened over the weekend with the college and the professionals, and then what's upcoming, Thursday, and then into the
right.
It'll be all about football this time of year.
And we'll be telling you all about it on the radio show, and when he comes back on the TV show, it'll be must listen to. I'll be checking it out.
You'll be on it from time to time.
And I'll be on it from time to time as well. See?
Maybe.
Yeah, if he makes room for me. Man, I tell you what, Mike. You're my go-to guy when it comes to college baseball. Right. I don't think there's anybody else. I put you up there with Lenny Van Gilder, Jude Young, guys that really can break it down. Kenny Trahan. These guys really break it down in terms of college baseball.
Better than I am.
And I can remember you telling about a guy named Alex Bregman. Okay, when he was coming from Arizona, and you were telling about this kid that was going to come to LSU. This guy was going to be a great player. And I'm just listening intently. I don't really know a lot about what's coming on with the recruiting, in college baseball. Until the guys get there, they sign, and then you kind of see what's going on. And that was one of those ones where, you never know who's going to sign. Major League is going to sign with the Tigers.
Right.
And lo and behold, this guy might be one of the greatest players in LSU history. And now, just with a short little window that we've seen into his pro career, wow, what he's been able to do with the Houston Astros. Alex Bregman, Major League Baseball All-Star MVP. Again, hits the homer to put the American League up. They eventually go on to win. And your thoughts on Bregman?
Well, I mean, he's just a great player, one of the greatest players ever play for LSU. And he's coming into the majors, and he's pretty much just carried on from what he did with it. It took him a little while to get his footing, get adjusted to the pitching in the major leagues. But he's made an All-Star game. He's the hero, the most valuable player of the All-Star game. Had a great World Series, playoffs last season. Houston drafted him just at the right time as they were coming up, and they moved him over from short to third. But I mean, just a great player. And LSU was kind of lucky. They were fortunate that he had an injury in high school, and that that dropped his draft status from a sure first top 10 pick. And I think he didn't get picked in the first round. Right. So he said, you know what, I'm not picking the first round. I'm going to go on my commitment to LSU, and he did, and rest is history. He didn't get to win. They played in a College World Series, but he didn't get to win it, which is unfortunate for him and LSU. But just a great player.
What's amazing
not
is
even questionable.
Not really even playing his natural position in the majors right now. I mean, they got a pretty good shortstop with Houston.
Well, he was an excellent. He had great range at LSU as a shortstop. The ball comes over there a little bit quicker, and Houston already had a shortstop, so they moved him at third. And I mean, he's got the arm to make the throw from third, and playing at the range, a shortstop range at third base, is not too shabby. As you've seen him go into foul territory and backhand. People remember Brooks Robinson, the famous backhand. You've seen him do that a couple of times and gun somebody out. And he's a great athlete, fast. He can hit. He field. There's not much he can't do.
Well, and the legend at LSU, right?
If they needed him.
The legend at LSU, right? I mean, again, about him going into the batting cage. They had to change the key card. They had to change to a key card because he had to go get one of the coaches to let him in every night because he wanted to go out and hit. Again, to going to fielding balls in the dark at Alec Box. I mean, the legend of
just
Bregman.
One of those, obsessed people, kind of like a Drew Brees, who's just a fanatic about training. And a lot of people say you want to train so hard, so when you get to the game, it's easy. You want to practice 10 times harder than by the time you get to the game. So, like you said, just legendary workouts. He's a legendary player at LSU, and he's becoming, one of those guys in the major leagues that people like to pay attention to.
Well, and not just that, Mike. Again, when you look at, like I said, this real small window of success just in the infant stage of his career, we haven't scratched the surface on what he could be if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just getting started for him. So, and I mean, a lot has to do with the lineup, where he bats in the order and who he follows and who follows him. But Houston's got a great team. They won a World Series. They have great pitching and a nice lineup. So, and really good defense. So that whole team is primed to make a run over the next few years. So
yeah, no doubt about it.
Should be interesting to watch.
Going to take a quick break. We'll bring on our second guest, Corey Johnson. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Fazende, Corey Johnson, Sports 1280 are our guests tonight. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stay with us.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Around here, we ride a lot of different things. A lot. Maybe it's because we know it's not just where you're going that counts, but also how you get there. That's why we have Blue Bikes, a simple and affordable bike share program just for our city. And if it's been a while since you've ridden a bike, don't worry. It'll come back to you. It's just like, well, Blue Bikes. Enjoy the ride.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Corey Johnson joins us on the panel.
There goes the neighborhood.
There it is.
Corey,
Try to warn you.
Straight from his radio show. which thankfully is not, the studios are not too far away. Corey?
Worked out well. How you doing, Eric?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us again. And
I had to put on a coat. I was wearing a wife beater and just my boxer shorts doing the radio show. That's the beautiful thing, Mike. You know, I see Michael shows up.
Yeah.
He's got on, you know, just
flip-flop
clothes,
beer stain, ketchup on the shirt.
Hadn't bathed in a couple days.
Right. All of a sudden, if you're doing the TV show, we have to shower and clean up.
There you go.
I even brushed my teeth.
The beauty of radio as opposed to television.
Appreciate it.
Brushed my teeth for the first time since April.
Thank you so much.
I bet your dentist is happy about that.
I'm very happy.
Could you imagine?
I'm glad we talk on the phone a lot. We're not talking again, you know, face to face. Now that I know that, tell folks about your great radio show and, of course, what you're doing over at ABC 26 as well.
Speaking of legends.
We're talking about Ed Daniels?
Yeah.
Him too.
At 26? Yeah, I do editorials at Channel 26 on Monday and Wednesday, Eric, during News with a Twist at 6. I think they replay them at 11 on the 38, Channel 38 News with a Twist on Monday and Wednesdays. And then Monday through Friday on AM 1280 and on Cox Channel 4 Television, Charter Channel 333, I do a daily talk show from 4 to 6.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's all right. It's fun. I like talking. It's like your show.
Yeah.
Very similar to your show.
Very similar.
Similar formats, the whole 9 yards.
No doubt. And of course, let's not forget the HD.
Oh, yeah. We're on 101.1 FM HD2. I mean, a lot of people don't even know they have an HD2 tuner in their car. I've got a 2010 car, and it's got one. Yeah. I haven't listened to AM 1280, you know, Sports 1280, on AM in a year. I listen on 101.1 FM HD2. You go to the country giant, WNOE, and then you just hit Seeker Scan, and if you have an HD2 tuner, it'll fall on that. It's still 101.1.
Right.
The country station's HD1. We're on HD2. And that's crystal clear digital stereo, Eric. I like that station.
Yeah, I was setting up a friend about 2 weeks ago. He didn't even realize it was there, and literally was listening to you and says, well, that sounds great. I went, yeah, so now it's locked in.
That was the content of the show, Eric.
That was it?
Yeah.
That was
it had nothing to do with that signal.
Well, speaking of Ed Daniels, okay, he broke a story this past week that LSU and Tulane will not play baseball in 2019. They'll resume the series in 2020 with the Wally Pontiff Jr. Classic. Now, the decision, according to Ed Daniels, came after Tulane chose to air the last Tulane-LSU baseball game at Turchin on their subscription-based streaming service instead of Cox 37, which, again, a lot of LSU baseball games are on. Corey, I talked about a lot on the radio show this week. You know, I think that the LSU and Tulane should play every year in baseball, in basketball, and yes, even in football. I know football's a little bit different, but again, you're paying teams to come into Baton Rouge to pick up $1 million payday in some cases. Why not Tulane? This year, Louisiana Tech and Southeastern is on LSU's schedule. I know there's always been a controversy about having to go into leaving Tiger Stadium and going to the Dome, you know, once every 4 to 5 years. Look, it's still going to be an LSU crowd. They would be paying Tulane anyway to be able to come to Tiger Stadium, and it gives maybe people that don't have a chance to be able to go to Tiger Stadium and see the Tigers play a chance to be able to see them in the Dome. Your thoughts on this series ending and then maybe expanding the series to basketball and football?
Before we get into that, so you're telling me Tulane had a home baseball game.
That's correct.
And they chose how they were going to air that home baseball game. That is correct, sir. And it was an out-of-conference game.
And it is an out-of-conference game.
So my school, where I graduated from, LSU, is upset about that because their fans couldn't watch it on Cox 37, where it could have been made available if Tulane chose to, but they wanted to make money because it's a big game LSU, knowing the LSU fans would pay for it, and they put it on their pay per thing, and that got LSU mad.
You are correct, sir.
That's where LSU is just childish and ridiculous. I mean, they really are. You know, Tulane's a private university. They're small compared to LSU athletically. They're nothing. You know, they play them good in baseball and basketball, but football, they're obviously a big disparity. I mean, Tulane takes advantage of that so they can make a little bit of money, and the LSU fans are mad that, you know, Johnny, the average guy who ain't going to show up at Turchin, ain't going to show up at Zephyr Field and buy the $6 ticket, can't watch it for free, so they're mad at Tulane, they're going to cancel the series. So that's just utterly ridiculous on my school's part, LSU's part. Childish. Now, the other thing isn't childish. The football thing, Tulane's sort of being childish, in my opinion. From what I understand, they won't do anything but home and home.
Right.
And they're out of their minds. I mean, Now, they're going to say, no, we're not. We're playing Texas home and home. We're playing Ohio State home and home. Why do we have to give you 3 or 4 to get 1 in the Dome? LSU can't afford to leave Tiger Stadium every year. They might do a 4-1, Eric, and go to the Dome. But LSU clears profit over $1 million every home game. I don't know if they're going to make $1 million at the Dome in profit. And Tulane's not going to finagle it. I mean, Tulane just lost the baseball series because they privatized the baseball game to make money. They're not going to give up money to LSU and make it, like a regular, they're playing Southern Miss and LSU gets to keep all the profit. And I think Tulane needs to bend a little bit more, and it is a big advantage to play this game. I mean, the wheelbarrow races when we were kids, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter that LSU dominates it, and a lot of maybe insecure LSU fans be like, it's not even a rivalry, whatever. It's these two teams first started playing sports in 1893, 125 years ago. And it was baseball that started it. And now you're not going to play baseball every year. And I think you should be playing football every year. LSU does that state school rotation. Tulane should be every year on the schedule, a permanent thing. And it's got to be probably 4 at Tiger Stadium, 1 in the Dome.
I think that's more than fair. Mike, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably right, 4-1. I mean, you got to let Tulane get 1 in the Dome, at least once every 5
and
years.
LSU likes that.
And there's a lot of local LSU fans who would love to go to the. They may not ever go to Tiger Stadium, but because it's at the Dome, they'll go watch LSU live at the Superdome and tailgate and do whatever. But but I think the thing about we look at the LSU-Tulane football rivalry like it. Because we're of the age of when it was in its heat most.
Right.
There's been a generation of LSU fans that they don't know the rivalry for Tulane
at all.
Now they know it's in New Orleans, and they probably have a lot of people. There are a lot of kids from New Orleans. You, my son, my daughter, go to LSU from New Orleans. So that's kind of I guess a little bit. But as far as how intense the rivalry was, we grew up on Norby's.
Right.
We knew how that wheelbarrow race was huge. And,
how did they make it from Norby's to Parasols? That's a hike.
Yeah, no.
That's from your old neighborhood in Uptown. By like Webster and
Webster and Laurel.
That's about
Laurel and
3 miles
it's
down.
Webster and Laurel, and it's dead. It's the
gotta be 2.5, 3
Third and
miles.
Laurel.
Yeah, it's a long way to carry people.
Wow. Drunk.
Beer.
Sorry.
Beer.
I forgot about Norby's and I started thinking geography. I'm like, wow, hammered.
But
now it's at Henry's, from my
understanding. It's at Henry's now,
Right.
but I just think I wish LSU and Tulane played every sport, and I guess it's not feasible for football, but because LSU spreads the wealth in football with all the other state schools, so there's kids at LSU and there's fans of LSU across the state. They don't care about Tulane. So I think maybe that's why it is. But baseball, I thought the baseball rivalry reached the part of what the football rivalry used to be. I mean,
that was the real rivalry.
Yeah, I look forward to the LSU-Tulane, even though it was a midweek game, but it was still for bragging rights for the fans.
Right.
It was still for bragging rights. If Tulane beat LSU, that was a big notch in their belt.
And that should be 3 games a year.
Yes.
1 at Turchin, 1 at the Box, and 1 at Zephyr Field
I'd love
on
to see
Airline.
Perfect.
That should be 3 a year between that series.
Maybe do an early.
It's ridiculous.
Maybe do an early season weekend series, something. But
when you're Tulane football though, Mike and Eric, what are you going to do though? Like when you're like, hey, Ohio State's we're doing 1-1. Why do we need to give LSU more when Ohio State can afford to do it, or Texas will do it, or these other SEC schools, and LSU won't do it?
But Ohio State isn't coming to Tulane to Super Bowl every season.
No. But they're doing a 1-1.
They're doing a 1-1.
Yeah.
And then so is Texas.
Right.
And it's kind of it's almost like a recruiting tool for Ohio State.
That's
for Texas.
they love it.
Play in New Orleans.
That's why it works.
And you're playing in LSU's backyard. So that actually, that's a great point. If LSU would say, stop with the Texas and Ohio State 1-on-1s, we'll do a 1-on-1, because
just to
that's
keep
gonna help.
that ain't going to happen because they can't afford to do it.
Can't afford to do it.
So I mean, you have both sides.
So it's kind of a
Tulane,
conundrum.
won't bend on the football thing, and LSU gets childish and stops baseball because Tulane didn't put the game on Cox 37. I mean, it's just It's Louisiana, man.
Well,
It's children.
And if you think about the
Remember
baseball
LSU
aspect of
Tulane basketball was actually a good game?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Those
If you look
were.
at the baseball aspect of it, the midweek games have always been state schools playing state schools,
Yep.
and pretty good baseball between the state schools.
And you get the benefit of a crowd showing up.
Yes.
Midweek. I mean, they're always going to show up at the box, but for Tulane, they actually show up.
Yep.
And they show up at Turchin, right?
Yeah. We play such good baseball in Louisiana. It's like you said, Eric. It's good games. They need to play.
It'll
all
be
the
first
time
time
there.
since 1936.
I've been
guys,
to the
that they won't play
LSU
on the diamond. First time since 1936 that they won't play on the diamond.
And like I
this
said, they've
year.
been playing for 125 years. It
I've
was
been
the
to
first sport they played.
The Uptown game is great. It's a great atmosphere.
No. It's 5,000 strong.
Yeah.
Corey used to
I mean,
broadcast
you're right
across the
there.
street from it every time they had the game at Turchin.
Yep.
It was huge. They had people tailgating on the neutral ground. I mean, it was a great atmosphere.
That's Young's Dry Cleaning. Yep, we do it from the dry cleaning place.
No,
right across the
honestly,
street. No, I remember. It was
I
packed.
mean, it was packed, constantly
Yeah, it was
packed.
great. And LSU and Tulane fans like 50-50 when it's at Turch.
Yeah.
It's great.
Nice
No doubt about
atmosphere.
it.
It is.
Guys, switching to LSU football, SEC Media Days this week. One of the things that Ed Ogeron talked about was that he admitted for the first time that hiring Matt Canada was a mistake. Now, the people had mused that one of the reasons why he had not talked about Canada in the past, that part of the quote-unquote divorce between the LSU and Canada was that you couldn't talk about what happened between Canada and LSU.
That's right. Yep.
So this was an opportunity, Mike, for the first time for him to admit that it was a mistake. And I kind of like what he said because it kind of reminded me a little bit of Sean Payton, where you don't double down on a mistake.
Right.
And at least he came clean on what the situation was. Why? Again, he made the promise coming in, best coordinator in the country. He thought that Canada would be that guy. Obviously, that helped him in terms of the fan base accepting him as the head coach. But again, it didn't last too long. They never meshed as a head coach to offensive coordinator. At one point, we were told they weren't even speaking. They almost got into a fight at one time. So at least he came out and admitted and at least expounded on a little bit at SEC Media Days. Your thoughts?
Listen, I might be in a minority, but I didn't hate Matt Canada as an offensive coordinator. I thought they were kind of hit and miss, but I think his offensive scheme made other defensive coordinators have to game plan for something different. Having said that, how do you hire an offensive coordinator and not do your research and understand that he was really everywhere Matt Canada went, he was it didn't take long for him to wear out his welcome. So you made a mistake, you hired the wrong guy, and you corrected it, and you got rid of him, and both parties moved on. So, but I wasn't a hater of Matt Canada's offense. I thought it was okay.
Yeah. I don't know. But sometimes I don't think I'm fair and balanced with Ed Ogeron because I think it was just a beyond second-rate hire, like a third-rate hire. I mean, you don't get Jimbo Fisher, you don't get Herman, then you're going to go get one of Saban's assistants or one of Urban Meyer's guys that we never heard of. Freddie Smith, offensive line coach, former offensive coordinator, head coach at Boise under Urban Meyer. He's the new head coach. Said you go get Ogeron. So maybe I'm not fair and objective about it. But so you hire a guy and you get rid of him and you hire another guy. Yeah, you did make a mistake, obviously. You fire the guy and let him go. I mean, what are you telling us?
Well, you hired the guy you had before you hired the guy you fired.
Yep.
And you hired the guy you fired to
Again.
replace the guy
Yeah.
that you had.
I know.
And now you got him back.
No, I'm a little
And I'm
weary.
like you when it comes to coach. I mean, I'm not gonna. I've said what I said about that hire, and we're kind of stuck with it.
No, you're right.
And so we'll see what happens. But,
You're right.
But great point. I mean, why not go grab a top-notch assistant?
I don't know. I just think because they screwed the pooch on that and they had it all focused on one thing, and then when that bottomed out, they didn't know where to go. Yeah. But, you look at, you remember Ditka and Steve Stonebreaker and these guys, they just party and drink all off season, and you go to training camp to get in shape.
Right.
Okay? You don't do that anymore. You show up at training camp totally in shape, and then you refined your game.
Absolutely.
Exactly. The same thing applies, Eric, with an offensive philosophy. Alabama, Auburn, Florida, even with Mullen, they're implementing their offense and it's ready to go. This week during media days, Ensminger saying we got about 60% of the offense in. So it's like they're showing up at training camp instead of 100% of the offense is in, and let's refine this so we've got it smooth. They're still implementing the other 40% of the offense during training camp. They're showing up for training camp not in shape. So it puts them behind the 8 ball a little bit. But, one thing, they're going to simplify things anyway. I hope that, and I think Ensminger's capable of doing this. I think he doesn't have an ego. I think he's pretty fair and objective. He can pull himself away. He doesn't have I got to run my offense. I think he's flexible. And I think he's going to put Joe Burrow in situations that he feels that are advantageous for him. And I think he's going to implement whatever positive plays he ran really well up at Ohio State.
No, Mike, you and I talked about this on last Friday, and I called it the gumbo offense because Craig, the offensive line coach, has a hand in it. Tommy Robinson, Jerry Sullivan. You also got Ed Ogeron kind of overlooking it as well. And of course, Ensminger kind of put this offense together. You were kind of like too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Too many cooks in the kitchen. The offensive coordinator, he gets hired knowing he is the guy. And that's what I think happened with Canada in a sense. I have no inside information. But you hire me to do a job, let me do my job. That's where Canada's coming from. And I don't know if Ensminger's got to rely on me and you and Corey to come up with a game plan. And I mentioned, okay, so Corey's the running game coordinator. I'm the passing game coordinator. It's 3rd and 6. Who's Ensminger going to listen to? I want a pass play. He wants a running play. Now, all of a sudden, clock's running down. You can't get a playoff. You either got to call a timeout, you get to delay a game, or you hurry yourself and you get a false start. Maybe it's on 3rd and 6. So now now it's 3rd and 11, or you burn the timeout. So, maybe I'm just thinking worst case scenario, but
that's a lot of the time.
I like a man who has a philosophy, a coach who has a philosophy, and I hire you as my running game coordinator and say, this is what I'm going for the running game.
Yep.
Eric, this is what I want for the passing game. But when it's 3rd and 6, I'm making the call.
You talked about Joe Burrow this week. I've heard you on your radio show talk about the defense being able to win so many games this season for them. And I think that they're going to hang their hat on the defense early.
Yep.
And this offense is going to have to catch up. I would agree with that as well. You were talking about recently about Joe Burrow and what he now means to this offense in terms of wins.
Yeah, Eric, before I just mentioned the offensive line. They look like they could be a strength, something you could rely on. They might even go 6 or 7 deep.
LSU's always got a good offensive line.
And with these junior college transfers and the guys they already got, it looks pretty good, the offensive line. Wide receiver looks like there's potential for guys to emerge. You got lots of athletes, so it looks like they're LSU SEC caliber wideouts, maybe like 4 deep. They're green. You don't know who's there. Running back, I don't know if it's LSU or SEC caliber running backs. And quarterback, maybe Miles Brennan or Narcisse or Justin McMillan would be, but they're green like the wide receiver core, and you're waiting for a quarterback to emerge. A wide receiver can drop a ball or whatever and then get his confidence back. A quarterback throws a pick or two, it could shoot, blow him up for the year. So you really didn't have anything with the offense. You had the potential of the O-line being good, unknown at running back, unknown at wide receiver, unknown at quarterback. The most important position on the field is quarterback. You just got Joe Burrow, a 3-year guy under Urban Meyer, an offensive kind of guru at Ohio State. A Nick Saban type tight run ship, as good as it can be. A model if you're a college coach. You go follow Urban Meyer for 3-4 weeks and you'll know how to be a coach if you follow that blueprint. So you're getting this kid in. All of a sudden, just out of the blue, he's the leader at quarterback. These other 3 guys, they're always going to be looking over their shoulder. If I screw up, is the next guy coming in? I don't think Burrow's thinking about that. Burrow feels like this is his job to lose, and I think he's going to take that bull by the horn. So quarterback has all of a sudden become sort of, I don't want to say a strength, but it's not a weakness or an unknown anymore. Let's put it in the neutral category, and the O-line could be a strength. Wide receiver has potential. All I'm concerned about with really is running back now. But when you didn't have that quarterback, Eric, you could go, Aranda and his defense, they could be good for 5, 6 wins. That offense, maybe 0. Now with Burrow, you think maybe at least 1 or 2. So all of a sudden, a 6-7 win team could be a 7-8-9 win team. And Joe Burrow indirectly may have saved Ed Ogeron's job.
Your thoughts?
That in the class of 19, the recruiting.
Yeah, that recruiting class is really good.
We're going to get to that in a
far.
moment. Go ahead.
Really good so far.
Your thoughts on Joe Burrow? And is he a guy that can come in and turn and be the quarterback that LSU fans have maybe been looking for since Mettenberger left?
I've only seen him play in a spring game. What I liked about him in the spring game, and it's a spring game,
sure,
was his ability to manipulate the pocket and step up.
The Ohio State spring game.
Well, which is full of
right?
four and five-star athletes.
Same thing.
That's a great point. And make some nice throws on the money, accurate, downfield, in and out. So I think his arm strength is going to be fine. His pocket presence is going to be fine. But like Corey said, once you start playing in SEC against SEC defenses, and you got sort of one first game in Miami with an ex-SEC head coach, and they recruit like an SEC team, then we're going to find out how comfortable he is in the pocket, and if he starts getting happy feet, and if he starts, causing turnovers. One thing about Danny Etling is he managed the game well, but he was never really a great playmaker. He never hit that big play. So
Burrow seems to be maybe a better athlete than Etling,
yes,
and more physical.
Yeah. Right.
So
I just think
that's going to help.
But what Corey says too is about the running back position. I mean, you're going from two of the best running backs ever at LSU. These two guys were historically good. To who's starting tailback? Nick Brissett,
you've always had a home run hitter at running back, and you've always had a second and third string guy that were starter types. Now you don't even have a starter type, arguably.
So you had the third string guy who's maybe starting. Now you have a guy who had a lot of promise in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. As a freshman, he's going to be. You figure he's going to be in the game plan, and
boy, the Akers
a freshman
kid,
Chris Curry.
Yeah, Cam Akers going to Florida State.
That really. Akers kid from Mississippi going to Florida State kills LSU because he'd be your starting running back right now, and he's a viable starter.
And he's a stud.
Yeah, he is.
Right. God, these two guys know recruiting like nobody else in this town. And guys,
is that a plus or a negative? Well, we maybe need to get a life.
That's a plus on this show because I got no clue on recruiting. So I'm going to turn to you guys. 2019 class, how big is it? And I heard you say that you think it may save Ed Ogeron's job before it's all said and done.
Well, it's huge. It's one of the best classes
ever
since the Fournette's class, maybe.
Or that 01.
The 01 class, Saban's second.
Marquise Hill and Spears.
It's got that kind of talent, but you got some big fish out there you need to reel in. There's two kids from a meet.
Sopsher, who's a Devonta Lee, the wide receiver.
Yeah, Devonta Lee. You got to recruit them, and you got to out-recruit the barbershop in a meet. So
exactly, it's crazy. Alabama's substation.
Yeah, so I mean
Tuscaloosaville.
Yeah, so and then you have. The kid from Kentwood, his name is escaping me. So there's a lot of kids too.
Yeah, the other wide receiver. You got to get the linebacker from Mississippi. You got to get that Texas kid. You want to get the running back from IMG, who's the Baton Rouge connection, the Florida kid. Who's that? Noah Kane.
Mm-hmm. Now Emory from Destrehan, I don't think that's a get, but I mean you never know. Kid from Destrehan.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Got 18 or so right now.
Hugely important for Ogeron to knock this class out of the park.
Yeah. And when you have this good of a Louisiana class, if you don't nail it down, when will Ed Ogeron nail it down? So this is a much. If he gets the Sopsher kid, the D tackle from a meet, because that's a real Alabama LSU fight.
That's a real fight.
Alabama really wants that kid. He's coveted. If Ed Ogeron lands him, you can put a check by the recruiting thing for 2018, 2019. And then it's how he does this year, you know?
Thinking back in the national championship game, who makes the championship-winning catch? Louisiana kid.
Yeah.
So it's like, what's going on? Why can't we keep, LSU keep these kids in state, or other state schools keep these kids?
Let's face it, it's Ed Ogeron can always hang his hat on being a great recruiter. It's one of the things that was a selling point for Ed Ogeron being the head coach at LSU. This is a class that you have to nail down if you're going to be a great recruiter. I would agree with it, and a lot is at stake on this season. And
that's what's nice about this 2018 season, really, because you don't want to wait 2-3 years to figure out if Ed Ogeron's the choice or not. This sort of takes care of itself. the combination of this recruiting class, you better knock down a top 3-4 class in the country. You better nail the majority of these Louisiana kids, or that isn't a success. And so far, it's a success. And then you got to win minimum 7-8 regular season games, and ideally the bowl game to go with it. You know, there's a combination, Eric. You have a top 3 recruiting class, and you're 6-6. Ogeron's on the fence. You have a top 3 recruiting class, and you're 7+ wins. Ogeron's job secure. You go 9 or 10 wins, like a fluke, and you lose the Sopshire kid and Devonta Lee, that Kentwood wide receiver, and then maybe Ogeron keeps it. You lose a bunch of the kids to Alabama, and you go 8 wins. Maybe he's on the hot seat. So it's nice that you have this great recruiting class and this formidable schedule, because the combination of how he does with both of those, a formidable schedule and the best recruiting class maybe in Louisiana history, you really get a quick barometer if you want to keep this coach. Can he coach and can he recruit? It all comes to a head this year by Christmas.
You get the final word, Mike.
Well, it just drives me crazy that some of the best players from the state of Louisiana end up in Alabama. And I know LSU gets kids from other parts of the country to come play in Baton Rouge, but I don't know how he does it. But Saban just he's got that way with him, and he gets them. Once the kid says, "I'm gonna take one last trip instead of Alabama,"
well, not to digress, regress, whatever. That's what worries me about the final visit in the living room.
Yeah,
you know, you got Ed Ogeron in there. And then it's Saban or Urban Meyer or Jimbo Fisher or Dabu Swinney. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I love Ed Ogeron. I'm a Louisiana native. I'm 25% Cajun blood running through me. I love Louisiana and LSU. But I just hear Ed Ogeron and his approach, and I love that 70s run through the cinder block wall type mentality. But how's he going to compete closing at the dinner table or the dining room against those guys, Eric? That just worries the hell out of me.
Hall of Fame
They're
recruiters.
so polished and refined.
And when you
and
look
now you
at,
got Jimbo Fisher.
You
know,
in the
west of you, and you got Saban east of you,
Yep.
and they're both. And then Tom Herman's coming in from Texas to try to get his.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Texas thing with Jimbo and Tom Herman isn't as easy or fertile as recruiting for LSU. It's not as easy to get.
Yeah.
And now you have the Kansas team with that New Orleans guy that can. TCU does a good job in Louisiana by Fort Worth. So
no doubt. Corey, you were there. I don't know how many people realize that we got a world champion boxer that came out of New Orleans, had a really big fight on Saturday night here at Lakefront Arena. Talk a bit about it.
Yeah, no, what's great is ESPN, Top Rank, DeBello Entertainment, this New York group, they picked New Orleans. They've got this contract with ESPN where they go all around the country, so they're feeling out markets, which ones are viable, which ones aren't. Obviously, where we're making money on this tour, where we're not. Let's go back to where we made money, where we didn't. Pretty good crowd, maybe about 4,000 or 5,000 showing up at UNO, which isn't bad for boxing, especially at a nice, tight environment like UNO. I think ESPN was pretty happy. A bunch of fights, like 10 bouts, starting at like 3:15 on Saturday afternoon, leading all the way up to the last 2 on ESPN. And yeah, Regis Prograis basically beat the crap out of Juan Jose Velasco. They had to stop that fight.
What impressed me about Prograis was not a headhunter, went to the body. And again, if a boxer can go to the body, and again, he'll take away the will of the other boxer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And you saw that.
Patient,
on Saturday night.
technician
Yes. No,
type.
first 4 rounds, feeling him out. 5th round comes in, body shot, and you almost could say that was it. I don't know if the ribs were broken or what. But again, after that, you could see that Velasco wanted no part of Prograis after that.
No, and it was nice, the ESPN coverage too, spotlight on New Orleans, UNO. They go to commercial break, in another city, they're showing like a bird in the lake at the park. In New Orleans, they're showing the paddle wheeler, kids doing street scenes, the horse and buggy, Jackson Square, all that. So it's just great publicity.
Yeah, and of course,
there's no better TV shot than the French Quarter.
No, there's not.
They love coming back.
Right, and this used to be a great boxing town at one time. When we were growing up, this was a great boxing town.
Horse racing and boxing.
Yep, and then the Saints came into the sports psyche, and you got to throw LSU in there, who's always been part of it as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back, we'll talk some Saints here watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Corey Johnson and Mike Fazende of Sports 1280. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Stick around.
Burkhart's Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guests tonight, Mike Fazende and Corey Johnson of Sports 1280. We've talked on base. We've talked about Major League Baseball and Alex Bregman. We've talked about Tulane baseball and LSU baseball series. We talked about LSU football. We shift now. Well, we talked a little boxing today on the program. We shift now to the Saints and what's going to happen with this upcoming season.
Anything on badminton on your list?
Yeah,
You want to get to Frisbee?
Now, you see, look, you know I always come prepared, right? Am I right? We'll never run out of topics.
After that Katie's commercial, we got to talk sports.
Yeah, we
got to talk some food.
We could.
We were still talking.
You two could talk food.
Scott Craig can talk food. Scott Craig talks good sports on your show.
It's a great segment.
He really does. It's a great segment.
Really
he is ridiculously knowledgeable and funny and entertaining.
Eric calls him Dr. Doom.
He is Dr. Doom.
It's a little bit Dr. Doom.
He is Dr. Doom. And that's his sidekick right there.
Mother Mary's meatloaf. Watch out.
Yep, no doubt. Guys, this week, only real roster move that was made. Shane Vereen, former Patriot, former New York Giant, signed by the Saints. Daniel Lasco cut. Lasco got injured last year. He's been often injured throughout even his college and his pro career. It's up in the air whether he'll come back to the Saints or not. Vereen is a guy that, if you look at the stats, he's a guy that has caught the ball more effectively.
Is that the tap dancer dude?
No, that's Ben.
Oh,
that might be his cousin or his brother.
All right.
But he is a guy that catches the ball at the backfield very effectively. Last year with the Giants, did not play very well. Had his all-time lows in terms of his production. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here, because I'm thinking that Peyton would really like to see one of these young players emerge to be a part of the tandem, especially the first 4 games with Ingram out.
Was Vereen just sitting out there, or were other teams chasing him?
I don't think he had been released. So
yeah, I just think for the Ingram suspension, they're trying to get anybody they can, as many people they can, and figure out what they're going to do those 4 games. And if it's a guy they can rent like a Vereen, and then great, and maybe keep him around in case somebody else gets hurt. You never know, but. Maybe it's a sign that they wasn't great, overly ecstatic about what they saw at minicamp with the running backs they have, the draft pick or other guys. So they want somebody who's kind of a veteran, who's not going to blow up. Mark Ingram, he's as good a blocker as he's a runner.
Oh, there's some doubt.
So he's a devastating blocker. So you lose a lot in the passing game with him just blocking. So I think they're just trying to. Cover all their bases.
Yeah, Peyton was suspended for a year, so he knows how to turn, something negative into a positive. And with Ingram's 4-game suspension, they're not going to dwell on this. They've already put it in the rearview mirror. They knew about it months before we've found out about it. So they've been dealing with it, got over it, moved on before the public, before the media even heard about it. So they're going to use that as a positive. And maybe this Boston kid emerges. That's what they're hoping for. Right. The opportunity's there. Ingram's not there for the first quarter of the year. He's missing 25% of the season. He'll miss 4 full games. So Ben Vereen can tap dance, or this
Shane.
Boston kid can come in and maybe do something.
Right.
And if they emerge, Eric, and they're legitimate NFL players, and we know what Breeze can do, they can take average guys and make them pretty damn good and more than viable in this offense. If those guys emerge, it's really a great situation, because then the Saints can start sort of the beginning of the end of the Ingram era, and maybe trade him or move him to another team that needs a running back, and ideally a team that's really good, that loses their starting running back and doesn't have a good backup, that's desperate and will give you more than it's worth.
He is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He's playing for a contract this year. You mentioned Boston Scott. Similar skill set to Shane Vereen, honestly. You know, a kid coming out of Louisiana Tech. He's an inside runner. He can catch the ball at the backfield. He's a guy that I think will be an intriguing watch during training camp to see if he can take it to the next level.
Yeah, but not to step in and take Ingram's place.
Agreed.
Game one. But the Saints get a little bit of a huge break. They don't have Ingram game one, but their opponent, they don't have their starting quarterback game one. Jameis Winston.
Yep.
So that's kind of a wash right there. Maybe favors the Saints because,
I would think so.
You know, obviously Winston touches the ball every play.
A lot more Ingram, obviously, early in the year. Towards the end of last year, teams started figuring Ingram out, maybe not as surprised at the Saints and Ingram and all these rookies. But the great thing about the Saints, you got Drew Brees and you have Sean Payton. They are masters at taking what the opposition gives. So if Ingram needs to run at 25, if I keep saying Ingram, Kamara I meant to say. Kamara is going to have the workload for Ingram. If Kamara is carrying it 25 times a game and is productive, that's what'll happen. If Kamara runs it 3 times a game and they throw it a lot more, that's what's going to happen. But the Saints have proven running game, no running game, someone stopping their running game, they take what they can get. So that's a beautiful thing, Eric, even without Ingram. And Kamara having to carry the load with Drew Brees, just this first ballot Hall of Famer and this cutting-edge offensive coach in Sean Payton, it gives the Saints a huge edge to get over this Ingram problem that I think most teams, it might be more of a problem.
And I think the defense, too, is, the Saints defense had a really good season last year.
Yep.
And they're poised to build on that.
I agree.
Instead of doing when Ryan...
Yeah, up and down.
His second season, they just fell off a cliff because, tape. But
and talent has a lot to do with that.
Talent has the Saints' talent. This is the most talented Saints defense I've seen in a long time.
No, you're right about that. There's actually talent out there. It used to be like there's no stars. Are there starters and serviceable players? Sure. But there's no coveted players other teams would want. Now there's about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
At every level, you got a guy.
No, that's true.
Exactly.
Every level. For the first time
in years.
And as bad a play as Williams made in the playoff game.
He's great. He's a really good safety.
Really great safety. And then
he's all rookie.
All the way down.
Right. And you trade out Kurt Coleman. You had Roman Harper last year. You bring in Kurt Coleman, who's younger. Again, still cerebral. It could be a leader back there for that young. But he's going to play. You couldn't put Harper on the field anymore because he just couldn't play anymore.
No, exactly.
And he was a great guy for the locker room. Now you bring in a Coleman who can play. And by the way, he's still going to be that leader within that secondary group. He'll be in those meetings. He'll show those guys how to be pros. And that was one of the reasons why Harper was here. You look at the defense, and when you talk about the linebacker, this might be the most athletic set of linebackers this team has had, and I might go back to the Dome Patrol, okay? Yeah. I'm not going to say they're as great as those guys were, because those are the greatest set of linebackers in the history of the NFL, but when you want to talk about depth, too deep, athleticism, this could be the deepest they've ever been, and I love the defensive line. I just worry about the lack of a run-stuffing defensive tackle next to Sheldon Rankins.
Well, a space heater. You need somebody to occupy,
no doubt,
and give the linebackers free reign.
Yeah, that Fairley thing really hurts. And then do you have enough depth at DN? I mean, the NFL, you need about 4.
But I think you can rotate. If Alex Okafor comes back, you got Davenport. I think you can rotate there. Remember, you can always use Davenport and Okafor as bookends and move Cam Jordan inside on passing downs with Sheldon Rankins.
So good.
They have the talent, as you guys mentioned. Each level, you have a great player.
Yep, a great player.
A great
Pro Bowl
player.
player.
I think Demario Davis is really going to improve this defense.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, I mean, where is he going to play?
Right. He'll be in the middle. I think he'll be in the
middle. Good. Then you can maybe move Klein.
Klein's going to go to the Saints.
That would be good.
Right.
That would be good.
And that's what I said last year.
That would be really good.
You really want a linebacker that can come in and move A.J. Klein out of the middle.
No, and all of a sudden maybe Klein becomes a strength at that position where he's sort of maybe a slight weakness in the middle.
Athletically, he probably wasn't what you needed, but again, mentally, cerebral, knowing the game, there's no doubt about that. In Davis, I think you get both. You get the total package. Let's head to the phone lines, grab a couple calls. We'll come back to the Saints in a minute. Jeffrey is on the West Bank. Jeffrey, welcome. You're on Inside New Orleans Sports.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I'm very curious on how LSU and Coach Orgeron will handle Lowell. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Lowell Narcisse.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be very important to recruiting quarterbacks in Louisiana and around the country for the rest of Orgeron's tenure. And I want to know what you think about that.
Thank you for the call, Jeffrey. Right. Guys, Lowell Narcisse, injured in high school, comes in. He's a guy that, again, has great skill in terms of running the football. The question is, if they want to play a aerial type game, is he a guy that has the accuracy to be able to play in that? I could see them having some packages for him to be able to have a change of pace. I don't know if he's going to be a guy that's going to unseat either Burrow or anybody else on that roster at this point.
Yeah, I mean, both these guys have a full season under their belts, Narcisse and Brennan, mm-hmm. and neither one of them stepped up and grabbed the job, which is why they went out and got Burrow. So you can't hold up your program just because you're waiting for a quarterback to develop that may never develop. That happened with Les Miles and Brandon Harris. I mean, they kept waiting for him to step up and develop, mm-hmm. and it just never happened. Meanwhile, they passed up on some pretty good quarterbacks they could have had.
I'm wondering, Justin McMillan graduated. Can't he just transfer at any time and he's eligible to play? So he could pull a Joe Burrow. He could be starting somewhere for another team, not LSU, in September. Yeah. So Justin McMillan could be gone. Miles Brennan, like you said, hasn't really emerged like people thought. You're expecting him to be this starter and pro-style quarterback that can fling it all over the field and can't gain weight. They say he wakes up like 3 times in the middle of the night, just eats thousands of calories and cannot. He's like a $180 soaking wet. Can't get over a $180. Yeah, exactly.
Be young.
But Lowell Narcisse is, 230. 6'3". I mean, Lowell Narcisse at 90% of college programs would be a really good quarterback. He'd be, dual threat. Yes. Ideally, you get some kind of Jimbo Fisher type coordinator that can develop him as a thrower because the accuracy.
I don't know how they got him from Auburn, to be honest with you.
No, that's where I think what Jeffrey was leading to. Right. These other quarterbacks are going to be like, look what happened in Lowell Narcisse. Why am I going to go to LSU when I could go to Auburn and be a star there? He was committed to them for a little while, Auburn. Or Mississippi State. We've seen with Dak Prescott. Les Miles wanted to make him a tight end. Right. So, that's a hell of a good question and how this all shakes out. We already saw Justin McMillan on social media complaining a few months ago like he didn't get a fair shake in spring, which maybe was true. Maybe he's whining, because if it was Saban, Urban Meyer, Jimbo Fisher, Swinney, you'd be like, he's whining. Yeah. But with Orgeron and Ensminger and all this confusion, last week, different coordinator in Canada this year, Ensminger going back to where you were. I mean, maybe he didn't get a fair shake. Maybe it isn't a fair and objective place right now.
You're talking about Narcisse on social media.
No, I'm talking about Justin McMillan on social media complaining he didn't get a fair shake.
But he was the starting quarterback during spring.
Well, a little bit. They
knew that LSU was looking at other quarterbacks.
Right. No, but I'm just saying. So maybe he's wrong and he's just complaining. Maybe he's fair and objective and he's right. And if he is, that doesn't bode well for what Jeffrey was implying with a Lowell Narcisse and these kids that what Mike was implying could end up in Mississippi State and Auburn in the future.
No doubt. Emil is in River Ridge. Emil, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Emil.
Hey, Eric. Hey, Mike. Hey, Corey.
Emil, how you been?
All right. Yeah, I got a couple of parts of question, comments. Thinking about the Saints, they could become the big juggernaut that y'all been discussing, or they become the worst enemy. Because right now they're on film, and historically it's tough to repeat in division. In recent history, it's tough to repeat in the playoffs. And also another thing they got going against them is they have tough sledding against the AFC North. Can y'all comment or anything like that? Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. NFC North versus Saints.
NFC or AFC? Did you say AFC North? Baltimore and Cleveland. They always give the Saints trouble. Baltimore's physical. Cleveland, for some reason, has the Saints number. I don't know what it is. But and Cincinnati's kind of, whatever. But I mean, I think when you Breeze and Peyton and you've been through that up and down, you don't want to follow a great season with a bad season. Right. So I think they're acutely aware of that, and I think they're doing things, and I especially like the talent on defense to keep them at the level that they were last season.
What were they, 10-6 or 11-5 last year?
11-5.
11-5?
Yeah.
They could have. I shouldn't say they could. They'll have a better team, I think, this year, and maybe not win as many games.
I agree with that.
You know, just because. I mean, look at what the rest of the NFL's doing. Look what the rest of the NFC South has done. Atlanta, even Tampa and Carolina, they've all gotten better.
To JT in Houma. JT, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, JT.
Thank you, fellas, for taking my call. Great show, by the way. First question is this. When is LSU going to realize they get all this press about being DBU, but the truth is the best story coming out of LSU is the wide receivers they're putting in the NFL. Why are we not running a pro-style offense and throwing the ball over the front sevens of Alabama and Auburn? And the second question is, does Marcus Davenport ever justify 2 first-round picks? Because it seems to me Sean Payton has done more on draft day to hurt himself, except for last year's draft, to hurt himself, as good a coach as he is on the field. His personnel moves have really been sketchy, and he'd never survive in New York or one of those big markets doing some of these sketchy moves. Thank you, and I'll listen.
Thank you, JT. Throwing the ball, they've had some incredible receivers at LSU.
Yeah, they have. It's absolutely crazy.
They're going to try to do that this year.
Look, they're never going to run the Texas Tech, Oklahoma State type offense, and those teams run those offenses because they don't get the defensive players LSU gets. You don't want your defense on the field for 40 minutes because your offense is scoring every 20 seconds. You know, I know that sounds good, but you're turning it over, you're punting as well. You know, you need to burn some clock. Aranda wouldn't like that. No, when they had Mettenberger and Hill and Landry and
Beckham.
Exactly. You know, Beckham, it was ridiculous. You had a 3,000-yard passer, you had a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2,000-yard wide receivers, both wide receivers. And the defense still wasn't on the field all the time. So I think LSU, I mean, we have all these different offenses. I think the Les Miles run-oriented attack is the best route for LSU when you've got a Mettenberger.
You have a great quarterback.
Exactly. You got to have a guy that can fling it around the field.
That's what I was going to say. The reason why there were more pro styles because they never had a quarterback. The one season they did,
they tore it up. And that was Cam Cameron, Mr. Horrible Coordinator.
John Chavis' worst defense in LSU history.
Quick answer on Davenport. Do you think he's going to be worth the picks? Yeah, I think that they felt they were one player away and they rolled the dice on Davenport.
Well, I mentioned just a few minutes ago, defensive end, you need 4 guys to rotate. That's why they went after this kid. Eric, if he goes and gets 8-10 bags, it'll be a great trade. If he's like non-existent, people will be wondering what happened.
I supported the trade when it happened, and I still like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Rod is in Kenner. Rod, you get the final word on the show tonight. Welcome to the show, Rod.
Yes, I'm Rod from Kenner. I was curious to why the Saints, every time we go into prevent defense, we've lost the games like late in the fourth quarter. Every time we go into prevent, they score on us, and we end up losing the game. Why is that? I think that is totally insane. Why you can't stick to the same defense that got you the lead?
Rod, we'll ask the question.
You know, ironically, the reason they go to prevent is to prevent a big play.
Right.
And they went in prevent, and they still had the big play. Sometimes the cards are just against you. But they've been asking this since Jim Morrow.
99% of the time, prevent works great.
Right.
You only notice it. It's like a ref making a bad call. Most of the time, they're right on the money.
That's true.
Corey Johnson, Mike Fazende, thanks so much for being with us
Always
tonight.
fun.
Thanks, Eric.
Certainly
Thanks,
appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. You can also catch us on Pelican Sports Television, 9 o'clock every Friday night. Catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2. That is noon to 2 weekdays. You can listen on the iHeartRadio app. You can check out Corey Johnson 4 to 6 on Sports 1280. Mike Fazende with me every Friday from 12 until noon on Sports 1280. Check out us on the iHeartRadio app. You can also listen live, download the podcast, ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports can be seen at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to our guests tonight. Great job from our guests, Corey Johnson and also Mike Fazende, as well as the WLE production staff, Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, also Trey Lopez, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.